I wanted to start off the video by saying thank you so much for 100 subscribers. Really means a lot that you guys have subscribed and you're watching the videos. Hope you're enjoying them as much as I'm enjoying making them. But today's video is a beginner's guide. I've seen a lot of issues with beginner reptile keepers in Facebook groups and Discord servers not having all the information that they need before getting a reptile. What to do before you get it, how to get your reptile, what to do after you have the reptile. So I'm going to start this series. It's a beginner's guide. Every couple weeks I'm going to release another one. I'm actually getting another animal or two in a couple weeks. I'm at the October Tinley Reptile Park show. Tinley Reptile Park. Tinley Park NARBC Reptile Show is in Chicago. It's in Tinley Park, which is south of Chicago, but I'm going to get another reptile there, so I'll do how to or where to get your reptile from that video or from that show. But yeah, so this series is just beginner's guides. So if you're new to reptiles, definitely stick around. I'm sure I can have a lot of useful information for you. Even if you're not new to reptiles, stick around and maybe I can help you guys with some stuff too. You can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. My feet have come too far for you to tie them to the ground. Right, so when you're getting your new snake, or a lizard, or whatever new reptile you're getting, there's a few things you need to do, especially if this is your first snake. But even if it's not your first snake, if it's your second, if it's your 10th, if it's your 50th snake, there are still steps that you need to go through. In today's beginner guide, I'm going to go through the most important step before getting your snake, or most important steps before you do that. Because I feel like a lot of people that I've seen, like in Facebook groups or in Discord servers, are jumping in and getting animals that they're not prepared for, and trying to rush and get their enclosures set up after they have the animal. I've been guilty of this myself in the past, so I know exactly why you shouldn't do this. First thing you want to look into with your new animal is its environment. Where is it from? So the reptile that goes in this bin, this is an animal that I already have. This is my African house snake, but I had to clean this enclosure. I had to do a thorough deep clean anyway, so I figured this would be a good way of showing how to do this. So, African house snakes, what I'm doing here doesn't go for every animal or every reptile that you get because they come from all over the world. So just make sure you know what part of the world yours comes from so you can replicate that best you can in captivity. Now, if this is your first reptile, you don't need to quarantine it. Just monitor it if it's your first reptile. But if you have multiple animals, you should definitely get this enclosure set up away from the rest of your reptiles. Because I've had this snake since December. So I've had this snake about 9 months. He's been out of quarantine for a very long time, so I don't need to worry about quarantining him. I'm not setting him up like a quarantine bin. If I was setting up a quarantine bin, all I would do is I'd put a hide on the warm side, which will be this side, hide on the cool end, which is over here, then a water bowl somewhere down here, and I'd use paper towels as the substrate. But that doesn't always work. Especially if, say, your reptile that you're getting is something like a Brazilian rainbow boa, which, as babies, they need incredibly high humidity, and there's not much room for error with Brazilian rainbow boas. If you have a baby Brazilian rainbow boa, and its humidity drops below like 80 or 90% for more than a day, that animal has a high risk of perishing. What I'm using in this enclosure, I'm using Aspen snake bedding. Is a ZooMed product. Alright, that should be enough. He's not a very big snake, so I'm not worried about this being too little substrate. If I feel like I need more, I'll add a little bit more. Okay, so I did actually decide to add a little bit more substrate. Next thing you're going to want to do is actually set up the enclosure. Just using this, like, half dome hide. I'm going to put this hide on the warm end. And then I'm going to use my more naturalistic looking hide and put this on the cool end. Sticking that in there. This was actually a plant that fell apart, so there's just a couple of stalks on it. But I like to have the rock in there also for some extra enrichment, and he can rub up on that rock to help him shed. Now, African house snakes, they come from, like I said, they come from Mongolia. It's not a tropical rainforest. It's not super lush, but there are still some plants there. They're just lowland, like shrubs and things like that. Here's a picture of like where you'll find their habitats right there. So I just kind of scatter these little fake leaves around because that's looks pretty good. And these are actually so big compared to the snake that he can actually kind of hide under them. And actually, just for a little bit of extra enrichment, I'm adding one more leaf. This is more of a tropical kind of a leaf. Pulled that off of a bigger plant that I got at Menards. Or not Menards, I got it at Michael's. And that plant is, or that one leaf is actually big enough for him to hide under completely. So, that'll be even more enrichment. It occurred to me that I forgot to film this part, but I also treat my enclosures with this. It's the same formula as Prevenamite, because I've had mite issues in the past coming in on new animals. And I do this about every 2 weeks to once a month, just to make sure that all the snake mites are dead. Snake mites are just little, like, blood-sucking parasite that feed on a snake. They're not lethal unless you don't do anything about them at all and just let them breed and breed and breed and feast on your snakes. They're just more of an annoyance than anything else. Alright, one thing I will also note you want to be careful about is with things like water dishes and decor, once you clean it, when you put it back in, you want to make sure it's not super wet, because especially if it's aspen. If it's something like cypress mulch for more humid species, then it's not a problem, but something that's really dry, like an Angolan python, African house snakes, hognose snakes, you want to make sure that your decorations are really dry after being cleaned, because aspen molds really fast. So you just want to make sure that there's not a ton of mold. You just want to make sure that you're not getting the aspen super wet and moldy. If I get any of the aspen wet at all, I immediately take that clump out. Alright, so now that that's all set up, the enclosure is ready for the snake. What you're going to want to do before you get your snake, or lizard, or frog, or toad, or whatever animal you're keeping, or whatever new reptile you're getting, like I said at the beginning, make sure that you have it all set up before you get the animal. I like to leave my enclosures for a couple of weeks before I get animals, just so I can be on the safe side. So I can monitor the enclosures and make sure the temperature's right, make sure the humidity's right. And if it's not, like, say, if this was a tank and I had a basking bulb over the hotspot, I might have a problem with humidity being too high for this dry species, so I'd want to move the water bowl to this end, so it would evaporate less, and see if that helps the humidity issue. African house snakes, I keep mine at between 30 and 50% humidity. Does really well like that. Has full sheds every time. Oh, I actually forgot one thing. This tube. This is actually not a PVC tube. This is a plastic tube, and I found that this works really good as like a tube for enrichment. So I'm just gonna like half bury that there. Give him a little bit of extra enrichment with that. So again, I would leave this for a couple weeks, make sure everything's right before I added the snake, and then you're all good. Alright, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video in any capacity, please click like if you haven't done so already. If you didn't enjoy the video, click dislike. Tell me how I can improve in the future. And like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next video, which will be next week's video. I'm getting better at sticking to once a week schedule, so hopefully keep being able to do that well. Peace out, YouTube.